Hello there and welcome to this week's tutorial. My name is Dawn Marie from Sign Parties 101 and Sign Party Central, and it has been a little while since I've just painted a sign for you guys and stained it and did everything like I normally do at my parties. So I thought I would just come on here and today just give you that little tutorial. If you remember 2 weeks ago, we built the sign, and so that's the one I'm going to use, is the plank sign that we built. Then last week we did the hooks and wire on the back, and then this week we're going to stain and paint it. Now if you haven't seen those other videos, they are still in this group. I'm going to try to figure out how to get it a little more organized for you, maybe putting it in a unit so you guys can refer back to them easily. Otherwise you can just go to the search bar in the group and then just type in tutorial and you should see it there. Otherwise, building a sign or plank sign or whatever, or hanging hardware, and all those videos will come up. Or if you're on your desktop, a lot of people don't know this and it's so simple, but if you're on your desktop and you go underneath the cover photo in the group, click on media, and then you can click on videos underneath media, and all of the videos that are in the group will be right on that page. So that's a really easy way to go back and find any videos that you need. So welcome, welcome. Say hello to me when you join. I love to see who's watching and where you're watching from. I am in Southwest Idaho, which is different from my central Minnesota where I was just a couple months ago, but we moved all the way across the country, our family of 10, and we are here and we are loving it. And so anyways, all right, so again, plank sign. These are all the signs that I make at my parties, and we are just going to get to staining. Now, this is one thing I learned the hard way, is you have to have a fast drying stain if you're going to use actual stain. If you just use normal stain, oil-based, it will not dry fast enough for your stencils to stick. That was hard lesson number 1 or 10 that I learned when I started doing this, was you have to use fast drying stain. You could also use a water-based stain or just stain using the baby wipe method, which is something that I did in here as well, which is just staining with paint using a baby wipe. So you can do it several different ways. I've always just loved, my people love the stained look, and so I've just stuck with stain. And so what I use is Varathane Fast Dry. Hello, Sherry. Hello. So this is what it's called, Varathane wood stain, and it's the fast dry. It says dries in 1 hour, but it doesn't take that long. Basically, once you wipe it off, it should be good to go for your stencils. So what I'm going to do, this is a new can. I just started it this morning when I did my tutorial in Sign Party Central. And so, of course, I did not get my little tool up here. Hey, will you go get my weeding tool, please, on my desk in my room? Thanks. And I should have gotten something to open my can, but I didn't. Go get me a fork. The good thing about having kids like all up in your business is they can be my little go-getters. So I'm just gonna say hi to you guys while I'm waiting for that. Hello, Melanie and Christina. Hello, you guys. Okay, look at that. So here's my weeding tool. Those are 2 of my boys. Thank you, guys. And I'm gonna use a fork to open my jar because, you know, fancy things like that. Okay. So normally when I do parties, I put them in a squeeze bottle. Okay, so I don't bring this to parties. The only reason I'm doing this is because I've just been doing stuff at my house and I just use it right out of the can. But if you're going to parties, you want to put it into something else. Hey, Michelle and Marquita and Abby. Hello, Merry Christmas, Janelle. Okay. So, black foam brush, I'm just going to dip it in my stain and then wipe it on my board. Now, there is no real right or wrong way to do this. I'm going to make sure you guys can see this. But the one thing that I do tell people is because this is fast drying stain, you're gonna wanna do it relatively quickly. And if anybody is kind of taking a while or it's humid, we don't have to worry about that here now because we're a desert. But if you live in a humid climate, or especially in the summertime, I always suggest do half of your sign, then take your rag and wipe it off, okay? So stain is not meant to be left on the board. It's meant to be wiped off. So I'm just gonna wipe it really well. Now, the longer it sits on the board, the darker the stain is gonna be because the more that soaks into the wood. And so if you want it a little bit darker, go ahead and leave it on a little bit longer or do a second coat. But you still wanna make sure you wipe it off before the stain starts to get tacky or before it starts to dry. That's the one thing with fast drying stain is it will start to dry. And trust me when I say, if you don't wipe it off soon enough, let's say you are doing a bigger sign or like a porch sign and you do the whole entire thing and you're somewhere hot or humid, then your stain is gonna start to dry and it's gonna get tacky. And then when you go to wipe it off, it's gonna be really hard to wipe off and kind of make a goofy mess. So you wanna wipe it off right away. Again, if you're doing a smaller sign like this, and if you're in a climate that's not hot or you're inside or in a controlled environment, then yeah, you can probably do your whole sign and then wipe it off. It's not going to be a big deal, but I do want to give you that little warning. Another thing I do is when we're doing the signs and they're planked, I tell people to take the tip of their brush and go inside the cracks so you can kind of get all of that stain right on the edges of those boards. So if sometime they do separate a little tiny bit because this is real wood, so it's going to expand and contract. That's what natural wood does, and not to be surprised by that. And then that way, if it's stained in there, if it does separate a little bit, it doesn't really matter because you won't see like the bare wood. So again, I'm just gonna wipe this off. And I want to keep wiping it until it does not look wet. Like you can kind of see that in the light, see how it's shiny? We don't want that. We want to keep wiping until it's completely dry. So what I do at parties is when they're done wiping or when they think they're done wiping, I go around with my rag and my bare hands because I can feel it better with my bare hands and touch everybody's sign and make sure there's no tacky and there's no wetness left on their sign. And then I look at it and make sure it's wiped, and sometimes I'll pick it up and wipe it a little bit better, just because you want their sign to work out, right? You want it to look nice. So now once I did the top, and I always tell people at my parties, we're gonna do the top and the edges. We're not gonna worry about the back because nobody sees the back when it's hanging on the wall anyways. To me, it's just a waste of time and material or product. And so supplies, whatever you want to say. So we don't do the back. Now, if someone starts to do the back or is super kind of anal about doing their whole sign or a little bit worried about not having the back done, even after I explain to them, like nobody's going to see it, then I just let them do it. Like it's not worth the fight. But most people totally get that if it's hanging on the wall, you know, you're not going to see the back anyways. So but you do want to get the edges and the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do that quick and then just wipe it off. Now, it doesn't matter if you want to do these edges first, that's totally fine. My process is just, my routine is just kind of do the top and then do the edges. So same thing, you just want to wipe it well. And then you can go and make sure you didn't forget any areas and kind of look it over. Looks good. I'm gonna lay it back down and then give it another good wipe. And I'm actually gonna take my gloves off. I like feeling the board so I can tell if it's tacky or if it's sticky or anything like that. Hey, Jeanette, lunch break. Well, that's fun. You get to watch on your lunch break. Okay, so really dry. So there you go. Fast drying stain, dries fast, okay? There's no wetness, there's no anything like that. So now we're gonna do, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask them as we're going along here. I'm gonna put the cover back on my stain so I don't accidentally spill it. And I'm gonna set it aside. Okay, so now we're gonna do the stencil. Isn't this cute? I know it's backwards for you guys. And somebody told me in Sign Party Central that I can flip this around so it's actually, so you can read it right, but I've never tried and I'm not gonna play on here with it because I'm afraid if I hit the wrong button, I'm gonna like mess something up. But I have my new shirt on, which is gonna be part of the swag coming out. It says Sign Party on, hashtag Sign Parties 101, which I love. And then, so this says eat, drink, and be merry. This will be free. Actually, it is free on the Sign Parties 101 website. I just put it on there, so feel free to go grab that if you want this. It is under, so it's signparties101.com. I'll post this too, but it's signparties101.com. Go under shop and then stencil files, and it's the first one on there. So, so it says, again, eat, drink, and be merry. And this is made on 631. Okay, so this is the stencil material I use for all my parties. I have recently, meaning this year, tried 810, which is something I also like, but I like that more for painted backgrounds. And we don't do a ton of painted backgrounds at our parties, just because people didn't really want painted backgrounds. They liked the stain look. And so I prefer to still use everything on 631, but I would say it's okay. You can choose 631 or 810 are my preferred. Some people like 613. There's other ones, but I prefer 631 and 810. So this is 631 and it has, the transfer tape is AT60. Again, use what you want. There's some on Amazon and all that, but this is what I found works well for me. It's a medium tack, and so it doesn't get too stuck on your sign. Flipping is easy with the little tools button. I know, but I'm so afraid to try it because I don't want to mess it up. Maybe I'll try it at the end, so stick around. Okay, so this is 631. I'm just gonna flip it over. I just created this, you guys, about an hour ago. So I'm gonna take off the back, make sure everything is stuck down on my sign. When I peel this off, and if it's not, if something comes up, you see me just pushing this back down and continuing on. You don't want to try to pick with your fingers or anything like that. Just push it back down gently with the white part and then keep rolling it on or off. Okay. A lot of people take this and use this to put your paint on instead of having plates. You can just rip this into little sections. It's nice because this is kind of like waxy, and you can just put your paint right on here and dip it in instead of using a plate. So just a little tip. I'm not going to do that because I already have my plate, I think, yeah. So, all right, so I'm going to take this and we'll flip it over. Now, I don't ever measure, so I'm just going to put it on the boards. I kind of meant for the ends of these little leafy things to go off the edge of the board. This is 14 by 14. If anybody's wondering, you can resize it if you want. So I am just going to put both of those off, and then I'm going to use the crease or the crack in my boards to kind of gauge how crooked or not crooked the stencil is. Okay, so I can see that line right here and I can see where it's at. Another thing you can do is find another one and make a little crease. So I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to show you. So when I turn it around, you see how I made those little creases in the boards? Now I can use that and kind of gauge if my design is on there straight. Because I don't measure, and that would just drive me bananas if I had to be perfect. And so to me, that's good enough. So I want to push it down. Now, normally at parties, I would burnish this down because I'm on stained background, but I don't have my burnisher up here. And so I'm just gonna push it down with my hand. And then when we take off the transfer tape, just start at a corner, and I just hold, see if you just go like this stencil's gonna come up. I just hold it a little bit until I get it started, and then I peel this off. And then just make sure it doesn't come up. I'm gonna try to find my burnisher. Hang on a second. Found one. I told Sign Party Central this morning that I've been getting this little area a little bit more organized, so it's hard work when you move, you know? Starting all over and I have like 3 different spots in my house that I use for my business, and so it's either like in one or the other or all over. I kind of have like 3 offices. So trying to get everything in the same place is kind of difficult. All right, so this is just a putty knife, plastic putty knife that I use for burnishing, and it works like totally well, and they're like $1 or something. I got mine at Home Depot. So again, I'm going to continue on and just slowly peel this back, making sure all the little pieces stay on the board. Now, I always tell people, like, don't freak out if the stencil comes up a little bit. Like, the stencil isn't made to stick down, right? We want it, after we paint, we want to be able to peel it up without it taking any of the little wood fibers up or anything like that, or peeling up the stain or the paint. And so the fact that it isn't stuck on there super, super hard is a good thing. Like, you don't want that. So that's why I just kind of keep one hand on the vinyl as I peel this off. And for the most part, you know, it's staying stuck down very well. So I'm going to set that aside, and now we are ready to paint. And for this, I debated about which colors I was going to do. And I think I'm going to do like traditional Christmas. I'm going to do some black, red, and green. And I'm going to use my makeup wedges. I just get these at Walmart. And let's do the black first. So this black paint is just wall paint from Home Depot. And I just pour it into those bottles when I take it to my party. So I'm gonna dip the flat end into the paint using the makeup wedge. Now the key to this, you will not get many bleeds, if any, if you use very little paint, okay? That's the biggest tip. The biggest reason you get bleeds is because you use too much paint. So what you want to do is dab it into your paint, dab it off on your plate, okay? Think like dry sponge. You don't want like hardly any paint on here. So actually that black paint that I put on is like way too much. Like, you could start with like a pea size because you don't need a lot of paint. We're just going to do a couple thin coats of it, and you just want to dab up and down. You do not even want to pay attention to the cracks or the creases in the board. Pretend they aren't even there. We're just going to go over this and do one thin coat. The first coat is going to look spongy, and it's going to look unfinished, and it's going to kind of look ugly, and you're going to be like, I need to have more paint on there and more paint, and that's not the case. This first coat, you just want it very thin and spongy looking and all that. So do not worry about that, because the second coat is going to still be a thin coat, but when that goes on top of the first one, it's going to fill all that in and look nice and solid. So I'm going to leave the black for a second, and I'm going to do my red. Now this red is just apple barrel. This is a Tuscan red, so it's a little bit deeper. And I'm going to use another sponge, and we're going to dab it on here. We're just going to go up and down. Again, very, very lightly. Once I do the second coat, I'm going to show you the difference between the two, like the first coat and then the second coat. And I'm going to show you how it fills that in really well. Okay. So again, dab it off. Biggest key, not have a lot of stuff on there. And we're going to dab up and down. Very, very gently with very little paint. Again, you're going to be like, I don't know, it looks kind of ugly. That's exactly what you want. First coat equals ugly. And I'm gonna hold this up in a second. I'm gonna show you that. Okay, I saw somebody ask a question, I think, so I'll go back in a sec and look at him. Dab, dab. So again, one of the things that you want to tell your people is you don't want to push the paint because we don't want to like brush it underneath a stencil. We just want to dab up and down. So there's going to be lots of dabbing. Okay, I'm going to show you this first coat. I'm just going to hold it upside down. See how that looks spongy and like not very pretty at all? That's okay. That's the first coat. That's how we know we're not using too much. If it looks really nice and solid and you can hardly see like the difference between your stencil and your board, then it's too thick. So now I'm going to use a little bit of green. This is just Christmas green from Apple Barrel again. I'm going to get a new sponge. If you're doing these at home, you can also just cut your sponge off and reuse it. So dab, 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 up and down. I might mix a little bit of black into this green when I do the second coat to make it a little bit darker. So just very thin on that first coat. Got like a paint booger there. Okay, again, very, very light. You see that? It's almost like you want to use this to like seal the edges. Think of it as like a layer of Mod Podge. Okay, so that's my first coat. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be pretty. Now, the second coat is going to be the same thing, except it's going to make it like nice and crisp, and it's going to fill in all those areas. So I'm going to start at the black. I'm still going to dip it in and dab it off. I don't want that much paint on my sponge. And I'm just going to dab up and down. And make sure you get to the edges of your letters. Now, a lot of times people forget about that because they're so focused on like the main part of the word that they forget the edges, and we don't want that. So just dab up and down. So I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to show you the difference between the one coat and the two coats. So you see the difference between eat and drink? See? And I only use the same amount again, but that's how much difference it made in the word. So we're just dabbing up and down. Again, if you guys, if this is your first one you caught, 2 weeks ago we did the plank sign, how to make the plank sign, which was this one. And then last week we came on here and we did the hardware on the backs, so the hooks and the wire. And then this week we are doing the stencil and the stain, paint and stain. So if you needed to watch those, you can always refer back to them in this group. They will always be up there. And this design, this SVG, is free on the website, and I'll post that as well. So again, I'm going to show you the difference once I start this red. But just very, very light coats. You don't want a lot of paint. You can always add more, but you can't really take away, right? Kind of same with everything. And sometimes I like to go on like a blank area of the sign right here and just kind of, if I feel like I got too much on my sponge right before I dab off, just kind of dab it on your vinyl. So again, this is a very light coat. I know I'm going to show you the difference. Paying attention to the tops and the bottoms, because for some reason people miss those. There's the difference between first coat and second coat. Ooh, almost dropped it. See that? Look at that. It's like night and day. So do not be afraid of that first coat looking kind of weird, because the second coat just like makes it all better. I was just thinking this, one thing you guys can do, because I run into this all the time, like I make stuff for tutorials and my groups and my lives and all that, and like what do you do with some signs you don't have, or the signs you have and you don't, you know, you don't have a person in mind for it or whatever? Well, one, they make great gifts. And two, you can always sell them on your page or, you know, post them for sale on your site or whatever you have. But you can also use it. So people ask me throughout the year for donations, for auctions and silent auctions and charities and all that kind of stuff. And this way I just have like a stash of my signs that I use for that. And so if someone or some organization is looking for a donation or something like that, then I just am able to just grab from that stash and make up a cute little tag, and then it's a donation. So just keep that in mind, because I know some of you have your own pages and your own groups that you do lives in and stuff, and you're like, what do I do with all these signs or all these projects or whatever you make, and you can always keep them to give them away too. So okay, look at that. See how nice and crisp that second coat made it. And now I'm going to do my green, and I'm going to mix in a little bit of black with my green, so it makes it a little bit darker. Not a ton darker, but I want a little bit. And then I'm just going to dab up and down on my leaves. And this is going to really make it darker and brighten up those leaves. Leaves? I think I said leaves. Leaves. Okay, see? Look at that. Bottom, top. That second coat really does it. Let me get a little bit more. And we are finished. Now, when you are done, you do not have to wait for the paint to be dry. Okay, that is, I think, a big misconception. And actually, I try my hardest at my parties to get everybody to get their stencil off before it dries, because sometimes it's going to be inevitable that somebody uses too much paint. And if you can remove the stencil before the paint dries, you will have way less problems, because if you use too much paint and the paint dries, the paint is likely going to adhere to the vinyl because there's like so much of it, and then it'll rip off with your stencil. So try to remove it wet or damp if you can. So now I'm just going to start ripping off the vinyl. I'm not going to worry if the vinyl tears, because I have to peel it all off anyways, and I can always go back with my weeding tool if I have to and get it off. So that was the main parts, and now, because my son brought up my weeding tool, so many lives I forget to bring this. I should just have one up here, because this is like my area that I do all my stuff in anyways. And I've used like pencil tips before and all sorts of things to try to weed stuff out. But okay, so I'm just getting the little pieces that are left on the inside of the letters. And I hate things stuck to my fingers, so I have to like get it off. Okay, there. I think I got everything. And it's done. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this around and I'm gonna show you guys. Ta-da! Isn't it cute? I love that font, by the way. And now I'm gonna put this close, and you guys can see these boards are not sanded, okay? I buy higher quality boards, so they're not super rough, but I don't waste my time sanding these boards because I got better things to do and my time is more valuable than that. So I purchase a little bit higher quality boards so I don't have to sand. Now, when we cut this side, I do sand these edges to make sure, you know, there's not like anything sharp or whatever, but this I don't sand. So I wanted to show you how you can get crisp lines and not sand by just using not a lot of paint, okay? So I'm gonna put this real close to you and then I'll get back to the questions. Okay, so look, you see how crisp those lines are? I don't see many bleeds, if any. on there. Trying to look. Oh. So, again, just use little paint and you can get a pretty sign with no bleeds. So, there you have it. Then this is done because I got the hooks and wire on the back. It's all ready to go. So this is what my people go home with, is a finished sign that looks super pretty. So, all right, I'm gonna get to some questions now. You guys, if you are in Sign Party Central, you heard my special visitors that are coming today. My parents are gonna come for Christmas and they are flying in today. And those of you who don't know, my dad used to be a very vital part of my business. Before we moved just a couple months ago, he was my boards guy. And so I'm excited to get him here and show him my setup and have him help me build some things, including my table for my big Mira 9 that's coming in February. So I'm excited for that. Okay, let me see. Hello, you guys. Oh, I'm still gonna try to flip it at the end. Okay. Sometimes my wood splinters when I take the stencil off. Any ideas? Happens when I paint or stain. Okay, one, I would look at the grain and the quality of your board. If it's really rough, then that could happen. Also, if you're using too much paint or stain and getting the board too saturated, then the fibers of the wood, or like the little grains, can start kind of peeling up a little bit, and then the stencil will stick to that and peel it up. Most of the time it's because of the quality of the wood, and also how sticky your stencil is. So what stencil material are you using, how you're burnishing it, and know that even if it does peel up a little bit, it is easy to touch up with some stain on a Q-tip or something like that. So if that happens at a party or whatever, that's an easy fix too. So I would look at those few things. Just need Cricut to come out with that bigger cutter. I've never used a Cricut, so I can't tell you one way or the other about that. Do you ever use Mylar? No, I've only used vinyl. What kind of vinyl? This is 631. I find sanding it with a very, very fine sandpaper before you lift the stencil after it's dry helps release paint. Okay. From the stencil, yep, especially if they use too much. That's a good point. Yes, I can show you the stain. What exactly are the high quality boards? So that's gonna vary because I get mine from a local lumber company. So I get #2 pine. Different companies rate it different ways. So if you would go to your local lumber company and say, I want a #2 pine, they might look at you like you have 3 heads because they'll call it something different. I would say, like, for quality purposes from like a big box, I would say it's more of like a select, or like it's not just like the common. It's a little bit higher, but it's not that price. That's why I always say try to find a local lumber company, because the quality and the price is usually going to be a lot better. But this was #2 pine. I started with #3, so they get kind of worse as they go down. I started with #3 pine, and that one has knots and gouges, and it was really rough and the edges were sharp. #2 was a little bit higher priced, but it has the edges that are eased, so they're not sharp. They're a tiny bit rounded. And then there's no sanding, and I rarely get big knots or any gouges or anything like that. And both sides are good. Like, I can choose whichever side I want. Whereas the #3, it was usually a better side and then a worse side. So check your local lumber company and see what they have. This is my stain, Varathane Fast Dry. Menards sells this, Home Depot does now too, which is nice. I'm not sure if Lowe's does. I have only gone to Lowe's once for like 30 seconds, but that's new for me because we have it here and we didn't have it there. And so Varathane Fast Dry is what I use. Okay, I love how clean that came out. Yes. What did you say was coming in February? Oh, my Mira 9. It's a big laser. I have 2 Glowforges right now, and they just are not cutting it as far as production wise keeping up with everything, and so I had to take out the big guns and order a Mira 9, which is a bigger, faster, more industrial type laser. But I have to build a table for it because I don't want it to sit on the floor. So that's what my dad and my husband are gonna do. Can you tell us the wood that you say you used? Okay, so I just kind of went over that. Interested in knowing more about the Mira, please dish on that. So I ordered it from Aeon. It's Aeon. I can give you it. Let me know if you guys want to check it out. I have a guy there that will answer any of your questions. He's amazing. I text him whenever I need to, and there is actually customer service there versus Glowforge. You have to just wait for an email to come back, which I will say, Glowforge is very, I have 2 of them. I've had them, well, I got my first one last December, so a year ago. They have fixed any problem that I had. So it just takes a little bit longer because you have to wait for an email back. And I feel like if you're starting out and getting into the laser world and you want to offer maybe some 3D signs, stuff like that, the Glowforge is still a great machine to start off with because there's not any that are as plug and go ready as the Glowforge. So the other ones have a little bit higher learning curve. I'm a tad bit scared about that because I'm not very techie, but I'm looking forward to expanding my horizons as far as getting things out faster. But the Glowforge is still great, especially for hobbies if you're not doing stuff super fast or needing a whole bunch of production. And then it's still the ease of use. Glowforge is by far the easiest. So, but let me know, message me or send me an email if you want more specific information on the Mira. I don't know a ton about it. I just know I ordered one. So it's coming in, like the shipment is like 3 months out, I guess. So I ordered it in November, so it'll get here in February, hopefully. So, okay, I answered that. Wanda says our local lumber yard is amazing. They're great to work with. So awesome. Yes, Kristen, it's me again. Is this silhouette compatible with Mira 9? No, they have their own program called Lightburn, but I believe you can just upload any SVG to Lightburn and then send it over. So I think that is more ease of use that way. So you can design. I'm still going to design in silhouette because I honestly, I have a hard time figuring out. It took me forever to figure out silhouette. So I don't know if I could go and figure out something else. So I'm going to continue to design in silhouette, save as an SVG, and then upload it to Lightburn and figure out how to get it from there. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted as what I find out and how I learn it and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, the fonts, shoot, you're going to have to, let me think. It's upside down. This one is, I don't even know how to say it. Amalfi Coast, something like that. I can post it. And this one is KL Say What, I believe. I'm going to have to double check, but I think those were the 2 fonts. I don't want to learn new. I know that's hard sometimes. Especially just the time that it takes to learn. That's what I'm scared of. So, all right, well, that's it, you guys. I'm going to post this. Like I said, this is free on the Sign Parties 101 website. Just go to signparties101.com, click on shop, then stencil files, and it's the first one on there. It will be free for you guys for a while, and head over there and download it if you would like. And that was it. I'll be back on, I think it's on Thursday, for my part 3 of getting your parties off the ground and running in 2021. And then also I think it's my last tutorial of the month next Tuesday. So we will keep you posted on that. Oh, test the flip tool. I almost forgot. Okay. I think I pressed, someone gave me the, okay, I think I pressed this one. And then the little tool guy. Oh, I think I found it. Do I do this one? Let me see. Oh. Yay! Look at that. Eat, drink, and be merry. Can you see it normal now? I think so. You guys, this is like, I don't know. I guess I need to play with the lives a little more. And look at my shirt. It's the right way too. Although I seem goofy because I'm like backwards. Or I feel like I'm backwards. So, yay! Okay. See, I still learned from you guys too. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.